Yo, part two, the 64 C10 LS swap. Let me show you where I'm at because I did a little bit to it when I should have videoed it, but I didn't. So I got AC bracket. Oh, there we go. AC bracket, AC pump put on. I'm not sure if I had this on in the last video, but it's on now. Throttle cable. Yeah, I got the gas pedal, which this is just a cheap Amazon gas pedal. And then now we are working on the Dakota Digital gauges, which is all this mess you're seeing here. Well, not that, but all this mess that you're seeing here. If you get Dakota Digital, I would highly recommend getting this little box, as it plugs in to the OBD port on the harness, and it sends all of your info directly to the dash, so that you don't have to put in every sensor in the engine that it comes with just to get your temp and battery and oil. But you do have to install the oil pressure gauge on the factory spot on the engine, and then you just wire that. You take those 3 wires and you wire it to the box that comes with the Dakota Digital, which would be, did you already see it? I haven't seen it. I can't see it. I think this one, even though it doesn't say oil pressure, I just assume pressure because there's no other one. And then that goes, that'll tell you your oil pressure. And then all the other ones, that, well, not that one, but those two will come directly from the computer through there to that box. It's super simple to wire up, especially once you do it. I did this in the 69 Camaro I posted not too long ago. It's super simple. Cool gauges. But what I have left is finish this, get power going to it, put the key in, hook the key up to where it just turns all this stuff on. I don't have to put this stuff anywhere. He's going to do that when he gets it back because I don't know where he's putting it. I have to replace that wheel bearing. If it's the wheel bearing, something's going on with the rear end. And I might have to put an AN hose on this power steering pump, as we're having difficulties finding the adapters for this older power steering box to hook up the factory engine power steering hose. And then shifter linkage, that was giving me trouble yesterday, so I just had to stop and leave it alone before I ended up breaking something. But as of now, that's all I can think of. So I will see y'all in a split second. All right, so I got everything kind of jerry-rig wired to the key. I'll clean it up some. I don't have the gauges hooked up yet, but I'm just kind of getting this all hooked up for him as a reference, and then he's going to go through and clean it all up and mount everything. But I do got it starting off the key, and also I turned up the the throttle blade screw, which is that bad boy right there. I turned it all the way up, so now it actually idles on its own without me having to hold the throttle body open. But let's test it out on the key and see how it sounds. So I'm back. You're still here. It is the next day. As you can see, we got a nice little situation going on in here, but it's not as bad as it looks, I promise. Just everything's kind of clumped together. Once you kind of space stuff out, it looks much better. But the gauges are done on my end, as I was saying yesterday for me, but not too long ago for you. I'm just wiring everything up so that he knows what wires go to what, because he's going to mount the computer, he's going to mount the fuse block. Well, let me get on that side. Oh, hey, Kuda. But, okay. He's going to mount the Dakota Digital box, the BIM box, just call it BIM, computer, blah, blah, because I'm not sure where and here it's going to go, because it's going to have AC. So I just have everything wired up to where when he goes to make it all nice, he can just unhook the wire, do it how he wants to, and then hook it right back up to where he unplugged it. I'm not getting any power to any of these factory wires that are probably key on hot or hot the whole time. So on this one specifically, I got 3 wires running to it because I need those to only have power when the key is on. So once he hooks up the box or the fender harness, or the engine compartment harness, that will send power to all these wires, and then he can cut into wires that aren't going to be used that have key on power and run separate wires. But this is just the rough draft to give back to him for the gauges to work correctly. I have oil pressure set up. The battery is set up on its own. The water temp is set up on its own. So when I say set up on its own, I mean this bad boy right here, like I said, that connects directly into the computer harness. All you have to do is go through this display right here and tell this that it's getting the data from this, as compared to this would run its own water temp sensor, just like it's running its own oil pressure sensor. So might seem confusing, but these are super simple to put in. Once you put in one, when you put in one like I did the 69 Camaro, it's pretty easy, especially when you read the instructions. I need to do the fuel. I'm kind of stuck on, but I think I know what it is. So this is the fuel wire running to the relay that kicks it on through through the computer, and this is just the power to the fuel pump. So basically, you would just hook that to the battery, and that's what would send power to the fuel pump. But since I'm running it on the relay, I just add the power from the harness itself to that, and it kicks on the fuel pump. So I think this white wire is what needs to go to this for that to work correctly, but I would assume that the black wire isn't going to work the same, but it might if I just put it where the white wire is. But I'll do that here in a little bit just to see. But other than that, well, just let me show you. So I gotta do my little, good, yep. So, wait, I gotta hook up the battery. Hold on, I'll be right back. Right back. Had to hook up the battery. Hope you're still there. Anyways, so let's get that ready and action. So this is the panel that you use this bad boy to set up the dash. I'm gonna start it and we'll run it for a split second. I've been running it too much without coolant, and I don't want to destroy those head gaskets. But let me get a good angle. Okay, ready, action. Oh. Come on, don't embarrass me in front of my friends. What the? Okay, set all the way off. But there we go. So that's going through the BIM box. That's going through the BIM box. That's going through the Dakota Digital box with the sender unit it gives you to hook up. That's going through its own wiring. That's set up through the BIM box. The speedometer will be set up through the BIM box. It's just something that makes the gauges work a lot easier rather than you having to hook up every single one with wires. But that is it for the gauges. Now all that's left on my end is I gotta pull the cover off of the rear end. We believe we need to change, or I need to change the wheel bearing on that side. It's a little loosey-goosey. But he doesn't know what's going on in there, so hopefully it's not something in there that's giving that shaft play. So, and then I also want to go through kind of like a parts list, because I should have done that in part one. I made that one a little short because of the space I had in my phone. But I took care of that issue, so now I can actually shoot full-blown videos like I have with my previous swaps. But I want to go through kind of a parts list for you guys who are looking to do this in the same year model vehicle and not spend an arm and a leg, or have a shop charge you, quote you $20K to do what I'm doing right here, or what I've done right here. I know that Dakota Digital setup was $1,500 by itself, and then the BIM box is a little extra. I think it's $2 something. But as you can tell, it's well worth it. I mean, it looks good. It's gonna have vintage air, so you can price that out yourself. But I mean, we got Amazon harness, Amazon alternator, Amazon mass airflow sensor, Amazon water pump, Amazon fuel line, and Amazon, oh, I don't know if they're Amazon, I don't know what brand that is. I can't. I can't, let me get on this side where there's more light. I can't see it. So I don't know what frame mounts those are. But in the first video I showed you guys that the motor mounts that go onto the motor are basically ICT swap plates, and those are $30. But this is Amazon throttle cable, Amazon gas pedal, eBay computer, which if you go through all my old swap video, or old, but my swap videos of other vehicles, I use eBay computers for every swap. This one, he actually got this one from the eBay guy, and the eBay guy put the tune in it for the cam. And I'm always hesitant on these mail order tunes because I've seen a lot of them not work. And one of the 85 C10 that I did, he actually went to a place here in town that's very popular in the LS world, and he took the computer and brought it back the same day with the tune, and the engine still ran horribly. But this one, as you heard it a minute ago when I started it, it obviously runs really well. Just like I said earlier, you gotta turn up that throttle body blade screw. So yeah, so I'm gonna get to the rear end and fiddle with that gauge a little bit more, as I'm not 100% sure how that works, because I've only used Holley in-tank pumps that come with the wire specifically for the sending unit, and this one doesn't have that. So I have to see how that works. I will see y'all in a split second for you, but not for me. So I am officially done with the C10 swap on my end. I left you guys off. I had a few knick-knack things to do. I got the power steering lines done. I used the same hose and fittings that's done on the fuel line. I was trying to use the stock hose for the power steering pump, but I had a hard time finding the adapter for here, and then I had a hard time finding the original power steering hose that would have came on the C10 if it had a V8. The one I got from O'Reilly's was a 3/8 end there and a 3/8 end on that side, which is way too small. It needs to be 5/8. So just went ahead and got these fittings to where they adapt to an AN line, and I ran that fitting. So we'll see if that holds up to the power steering pressure. I bled the brakes. The master cylinder probably needs to be bled again. Usually, in my experience with a brand new brake system with power brakes, with getting that vacuum, is when you're bleeding the brakes manually without the engine running, the pedal gets nice and hard as you bleed, but then as soon as you get vacuum, it gets super soft. Typically, what I've done is just drove it around a decent amount to really get that air flowing through the brake system, and then go around and bleed it all over again. I bled each corner 3 times, so it's definitely better than it was, as they weren't bled at all. I got the rear diff done. I painted he brought me some paint to paint the cover the same color as the wheels. So I messed up. I just assumed this was a 10-bolt rear end, so I got a gasket for a 10-bolt. Went to match it up to the cover, and it's a 12-bolt rear end. So I ended up just using RTV, which is what I typically use all the time. I actually just have to put fluid. I have to put gear oil in that, and that's literally the last thing I have to do. I cleaned up the wiring to an extent. I kind of, like I said, once you space this stuff out, it doesn't look too bad. I got the key, the wires to the key, obviously labeled, and then they kind of, I didn't really need to label them because it tells you on here where they go, but because I had to triple up certain wires because none of the harness wires work until he plugs in the engine bay side of the fuse block, it lets him know that these 3 wires have to go to key on power only, because if you put them on power if you put them where it gets constant power, this will stay on, which means the gauges will stay on. But I ran, this is the fuel line, the fuel wires, I ran them through there with a grommet, and then this is the oil pressure sensor line, I ran it through there with a grommet. But I believe that is it for this. This is a quick performance AC bracket. I remember I said I was gonna try and go through kind of like a parts list, but I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the video. It's a Amazon harness. It's an Amazon universal throttle cable. It's a Amazon mass airflow sensor. I don't know why I just went blank there for a second. It's an Amazon alternator. Amazon lines and PTFE fittings. Amazon cables. Amazon ends. Cable ends. Amazon spark plug wires. I mean, you can legitimately do an entire swap off of Amazon, which is basically what I do, or all the vehicles I've done. Most of the parts come from Amazon, but sometimes they don't. Oh, let me show you guys this. I think I showed you guys this, but I'm gonna show you again. So this is an LS1 water pump with spacers to space this out so it's even with the truck crank, because the truck crank sticks out farther than the car cranks. And the ICT spacers, which you get this all on Amazon, come with this little hole, and then just throw this fitting in there and run your coolant crossover directly to that, rather than having to tap the top of the water pump, which I've mentioned before. It works, but if you have to change the water pump on the side of the road and you don't have a drill and tap, then you're kind of SOL on that. Or you don't have to have this running all the way to the radiator, or running this way and then splicing into the radiator hose. This is what I've been running on my CUDA for over a year now. Works great. But other than that, I would say it's done. Oh, it doesn't leak anything either. Check that out. Oh, I didn't show you. Oh, I'm glad I would show you guys, because I didn't show you guys this yet. So the transcooler line, I got that all in there nice and pretty with grommets. But look at that. Look how dry that is. Hold on, let's get a close up. Look at that. Nothing. But, all right. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you when I start on the Vega. So, see you next time.